Is Palworld actually good? Maybe.
He looks so silly. Ready, buddy? Let it have it. Just absolute bullet rain down. Okay, I missed like half those shots there. Dude, that was like a third of the boss's HP just drained.
Palworld is a new creature catching game. It was released on January 19th. Basically Pokemon, but is it really? On the surface, you run around, you catch creatures with small spherical balls.
And it's spherical! Spherical!
Create your own party, go to dungeons, and fight bosses. Arguably the same concept as Pokemon. I have put some hours into Palworld just to experience it for myself. Maybe 15 hours-ish. It's not a ton, but it was enough to kind of get some sights and get the gist of the game. And to be honest, I can't even remember the last time I played a Pokemon game.
I don't know.
The last Pokemon game I played was Ruby Red. I looked it up and I feel worse about myself than I did. Ruby Red released back in 2002. So it's been 22 years since I've played a legit Pokemon game. I've tried Pokemon Go and a couple of those other little spin-offs. I even think I tried Sword and Shield. I don't remember which one for a real brief point, but I got bored, to be honest. In my opinion, I think Pokemon kind of suffers a little bit from the AAA syndrome, is what I'm gonna call it. It's basically what the recent inspiration of the last couple years for games. Basically change 10% of the game and slap on a new sticker and let's charge an exorbitant price for it. You know. There has been some changes in the Pokemon format, but none that really stuck around. Arceus introduced some things. You had your own base, you were able to cook food and do some crafting of some sorts like that. Even the X and Y versions were pretty neat. They had the Mega Evolutions. I'm sorry, but Mega Charizard is bad fucking ass. But unfortunately, they killed that idea pretty quick. There's really different defining things for Pokemon. I don't think they really kept any of them. Relatively back to its tried and true method, besides a few outliers like I've spoken about. Pokemon is heading into its 10th generation, which is fucking wild. There's no truly new or fascinating in-depth features to any of the games, at least in my opinion. There's nothing really risking it for the biscuit, and I think it shows. It feels the same as Call of Duty or Bethesda. I understand they're different games, but it's that AAA syndrome that I'm talking about. It's a feeling that I think a lot of people kind of share with a lot of AAA games. And if you need me to even name some, you got Overwatch 2, Forspoken, Diablo 4, Redfall. Going back a little bit, you got Fallout 76, you got Cyberpunk 77. With a stipulation, Cyberpunk has made a huge comeback and they shoved their face into that grindstone and did not look up until it was a good game. And I commend them, okay? I absolutely love Cyberpunk. There's more to mention. It's a big list, but it's not the point. I mean, it is, but we're talking about Palworld. Palworld is, of course, facing some backlash, one being plagiarism. I think this is on the top of most people's list, is claiming that the PALs are a direct copy of the Pokemon. There have been videos trying to debunk this, compare models and meshes to investigate it. All I can say is the court system will figure it out. Creating models, designs, riggings, animations, all that stuff isn't that easy, so just directly pulling it out of a Pokemon game, I don't know how easy or not easy that is. I don't think we actually have any proof of either one of these things coming. I heard from a buddy that they think Direwolf is one of the most plagiarized or the most likely to be considered plagiarized, being closest to a one-to-one copy. I think the people barking AI are, as an argument, are either assuming that it was directly used to rip off the Pokemon models, or that it had some larger part in the overall game's creation. And even if it did build the game, doesn't matter. Asmongold recently remarked that if the game was created by AI, doesn't matter. If it's fun, it's fun. And I do tend to agree with that.
This is an argument that's based off of my sources. I made it the fuck up.
But he also remarked on some of AI and real world artist implications. Now this also goes along with Mudahar's recent videos. Even Mudahar, aka Some Ordinary Gamers, made a follow-up to Asmongold about it, and they've had a couple back and forths. Everything's completely civil, and it's just a discussion online. Who would have thought YouTubers talking and just having a conversation and not threatening to sue and berate each other? What? AI can have some serious implications, especially when it's being used and being trained off of real world artists and their art. And I think how we decide to navigate that as a society could really make some big changes in the next coming years or maybe even months.
Skynet has become self-aware.
Both Asmongold and Mutahar make some good points here. I think generally my line of thinking is more associated with Mutahar's here, but you know, to each their own. Everyone has an opinion about it. It's like an asshole, everyone's got one. I don't personally believe that Palworld has any AI integrated in any way, but I don't know. I'm sure in the coming days, like I said, this will all come to light. Steam even has a stipulation where AI has to be documented and presented when it's part of a game. I believe due to some liability issues that even Valve basically just wants to cover their own butt. I have personally used AI a decent bit, even in Photoshop or some things like that. And it's hard for me to see how AI could be fully used to create a game from the bottom up. There's definitely a lot of elements that you could use to create code. You could generate maybe some meshes for models and stuff like that. Really outside of that area, it's gonna get complicated for AI. That's just my opinion. It is constantly updating and evolving, so maybe I just don't have a good understanding of what AI is actually capable of anymore. Palworld's gameplay honestly resembles Ark more than anything. Your goal is to catch these creatures, use them to help build your base, protect it, gather more materials, fight harder bosses, and somewhat rinse and repeat. Catching pals is a big part of the game, but in my mind, it's really only one element in an otherwise survival crafting game. It has elements of Ark, Rust, yes, Pokemon. Hell, you could say even Minecraft, because you have to go and hit a tree to get wood, right? I'm exaggerating, but I think you get the point. I think in a lot of games, they all take adaptations of things that have happened in the real world. Even if they're unethical, they still get adapted into gameplay. It also has guns, and you can make some of those Pokemon, I mean pals, use them.
All you need to do is line up the target and...
I don't see any guns in Pokemon. Your pals can help cook, build, craft, farm, and breed. And most other aspects in the game even has enemy people too, or bad guys, whatever you want to call them. They like to illegally hunt and poach the pals in the game and sell them or whatever on the black market. You could argue that that's a little bit of like, it's similar to Team Rocket, but again, poachers existed way before Pokemon. I'm just pressing buttons here, and I think honestly the main issue is really the similarities to the Pokemon designs. I can understand the scrutiny there, but I think people might think the argument is a little wobbly, so they're just kind of throwing shit at the wall and hoping something's gonna get them and take them down. Palworld does get extremely grindy relatively quick, in my opinion. It's fun, but it loses its flavor to me and quickly kind of gets a little bland, which is partially why I haven't even touched a Pokemon game in apparently 2 decades. It's also why I haven't put too much more time into the game. I do want to see more, but progress gets slow and I get bored fast. There's a lot of potential here, and I think that Pokemon, if anything, should just take some lessons in their notebook from this and see what they can actually do in the future to really improve the game, not just add another 30 Pokemons and call it a day. I want guns and fucking explosion and just mass destruction, just raining hellfire from above with just my Pokemon and just destruction like I think that goes for a lot of big game developers and small ones too. Try stepping outside the box more and you might even be able to create the next Palworld, or Lethal Company, or Among Us, or maybe something even better. Game development in the last couple years has kind of gotten rocky, to say the least, in some areas. Lots of layoffs at big companies. I honestly think we might just be wrapping it back down to indie games, where indie games is where you're gonna kind of go to find the diamonds in the rough. Still gonna be some good AAA platform games, don't get me wrong, but I feel like indie games is gonna come to light here. Have you played Palworld? Do you think it will last, or do you think it's gonna die before it crosses the road? I see the similarities, but I think there's also a lot that's very different. I'm also not a diehard Pokemon fan, so I don't think I'm biased in any way, but maybe not being a Pokemon fan will make me biased toward not Pokemon. To answer the question from my perspective, I think it's a decent game. Maybe a bit too hyped up, possibly. For $26 or $27 though, it's really not too shabby. Yes, it is a small development team, but size doesn't always matter. Lethal Company, for example. Also, this game broke 2 million concurrent players on the Steam charts. That's only second to PUBG in the last few years, which is That's a pretty amazing feat in itself. So I feel like that says something about the game in itself, the fact that it broke those numbers. If you guys liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things. It helps out me and the channel. And get your slack bag today. Protect your, oh fuck, someone clean that up.